playbook is going to create a realignment in the family, and with realignment causes tension and intensity, but you really get to the root. I want to introduce Michael, who is the family's therapist and guest panelist. So Michael, if you could just, introduce yourself and talk a little bit about what you do.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Well, I'm a clinical supervisor in Ohio, and I've known Scott for several years. I asked Scott if he would help me on a stuck case, and so that's where I'm at, and I have a little video that I presented to Scott, and that's where we're at today.
You know, the case that you presented is, and I'll have you comment on this before we go ahead and do a deep dive into it, but Dexter, 10 years old, so his aggression, where he's been having a lot of problems in school where the school actually wants to, they're pressuring the family to have him go to another school. He's got a lot of attachment problems, especially with mom and somewhat with dad. The parents are definitely not on the same page here, and there's also some marital tension you feel. And my hypothesis is that Dexter might be in the middle of that. And the village has not really been engaged. And so...
Well, Dexter, as you pointed out, is like 10 years old, and he's been in treatment for probably half of that life. And during that time, the family has been through multiple providers with minimal success. And, when they came to me, it was like they showed me a handwriting by a PhD level psychologist who said, in my 30 years of experience, this is the worst case I've ever seen.
I said, don't give me an easy case here, and you didn't, because the other thing is that when you have multiple treatment failures, it makes it more difficult, because when you introduce a playbook to a fresh family who hasn't had multiple treatment failures, they're more curious about it. They're more open to, oh, I'll try it. I mean, we're not burned out yet. But when you present a FST, trauma playbook, they're like, been there, done that, doesn't work. As a doctor, let me look at the blood work. So what are the issues that the family's having? So you can see here, mom, dad, Dexter is all 70% and higher. Maxim's the younger brother, so he doesn't answer, but they use Michael uses a circular question of, if Maxim was here, what would he say? So we get down to, and immediately as a consultant, I'm looking for what's the best problem to solve first that's going to give me the most bang for the buck, given I also have to deal with safety first. Michael, what's going on? Did you feel that the safety was under wraps a little bit so that we could get to the low-hanging fruit around disrespect, or what was your opinion on that?
We did some initial work prior to you coming on board, prior to me asking you on board, and so the violence had subsided, and I would say right now it is under hiatus. There's not the level of violence at this point, and I think that you'll hear moms say that things have changed, and the frequency has been reduced, but it's still there. It's like waiting to happen.
Yeah, I felt like it's like everybody's waiting for the other shoe to drop. So
yeah.
I felt like we had a little time to deal with the disrespect, and I think if we could get that under wraps, or much better, that would help take the energy away from the aggression. So that's where I was looking at. So here, the question you asked that's in your resource handout is, what are the top two unhealthy and healthy undercurrents that are causing the child's, problems, in this case, disrespect and aggression, and what are the toxic seeds that were selected? And so when I look at this, I have in your resource handout, it's kind of like a cheat sheet. It zeroes down, from what you did in your diagnostic and assessment phase, Michael, in phase 1, what are the problem, symptom in question with Dexter? What are the top 2 or 3 undercurrents that are driving the problem of aggression and disrespect? And what are the healthy undercurrents? And a chaotic family can only handle 1 or 2 at a time. Because if we give this family, especially a family is this kind of frail and fragile, they're going to implode. So what's important is that we take the undercurrents from your initial assessment, and you'll see on the videotape when the village comes in and we have to play a little bit catch up because they're coming in kind of later in the treatment, so we have to pause for a purpose, which means that we have to bring the villagers on board and let them know, and you'll see it on the videotape, are these the undercurrents that we agreed to, that you agreed to with Michael? Because before I show you the playbook, they're going to be attached to these undercurrents. And so, the undercurrents, they picked misuse of power because they felt that Dexter controlled the mood and the direction of the household, and it was an upside-down hierarchy. You're going to see that the parents agree that there's caustic communication, especially between mom and son. There's inconsistent discipline. The village is not mobilized, and there's high anxiety and a lot of need for safety and security. So basically, we go with the family and say, this is what we're going after. And so when you look at the cheat sheet here, you're looking at, okay, to bring it down and distill it down into bite-sized pieces for you, the therapist, and for you, the family, we're going to look at mobilizing the village around safety and security, and this is going to help with consistency. This is going to help with soft talk and praise. And so as I'm thinking about this with you in consultation, we're preparing the first draft of the playbook to show the family, and we want to connect the dots with them. It's very disrespectful for the family to tell you in phase 1 of treatment, here's my C, here's my undercurrent, and you just say, oh, here's a playbook. No, you got to help the family say, the playbook is attached to these undercurrents, and they're like, oh, now I see what you're doing. So the question you'll see on the video is you don't always have to have all the dots connected to get going on this, because the theory is that if the family has some success on these directives and you're even in the right zone of the undercurrent, a lot of the feelings and emotions will start to get better from action. So let's go to the so my opening transition statement you're going to see is thank you for coming in today. We're walking in with our, everything we need, all the implements of our surgery from the pre-session preparation. I say, it's a day that we put our final playbook together as a team using the template, so I hand out the template of the playbook. I say the trauma playbook is something we're going to create together, and it's like an antibiotic or an RX prescription to actively heal the child's wounds. And football teams use these playbooks also, these types of playbooks in theory, not the exact one, but it gives players clear direction, clarity of role, gives everybody on the same sheet of music. And so when I introduced the village, as part of the treatment, we talk about the beginning, but then I asked Mitch and then grandfather and then Ada to say something that they see as a strength in the parents. This is done intentionally as a soft start up to treatment before we go into the intervention. Let's watch. What I'm going to present today is like a playbook. On the screen you can see, like when you look at football teams, they have a playbook that gets exactly where the plays are, what they're going to do, a clear direction, everybody's role. So like I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and I appreciate Andy Reid as a coach because I know that those players before day one have a playbook, because when I hear Patrick Mahomes call out a play, everybody knows exactly where to go by just a number. And I think sometimes when we have challenges with our kids, we need a playbook. And I'm going to present 3 playbooks for you guys to look at and to tweak the way you want to, but it will give us direction and get us on the same sheet of music. So part of it, again, is I believe in the village and organizing everybody together to help a family that's stressed out or stuck. And I put down some of the key people here. Mitch, Ada, and Ray are supportive. There's also other people that aren't here that we want to be supportive, like the school that may not be supportive right now. There may be a pastor, there might be other people, but right now this is a good place to start, to have 3 people that are in the corner of your family.
So I'm very thankful that they're not like a lot of parents these days where they would just throw their hands up and just, you know, basically throw their kids to the wind, so to speak. I would say they're both, you know, they're both hardworking. They're both, you know, basically they've got a good quality as far as a personality and a good head on their shoulders, so to speak.
Okay, so here again, this is really important where you can use technology as a flywheel. Or on Zoom right now. Obviously, one of the barriers that the parent said was that my brother, this is, I think, the mom's brother, Mitch is a traveler. He lives out of state, so obviously I don't even think that he can come into treatment. So I said, no, not so fast. We can have Mitch come on speakerphone or on Zoom. And so that's the beauty of telemedicine. You can bring the villagers in, even if they're not physically there. So this was an important moment, I think. Michael, would you agree that the family heard for the first time that these people are supportive of them? In fact, when I asked Cynthia what was most helpful about the session, I was surprised when she said the village coming to our aid was the most important part of the meeting today. And so that really made me feel good that she said that. I mean, right. So anything to add to that?
I think for Mom it was important. I think for the whole family it was important that they heard that, because I think they think that, you know, their brothers, their sisters, their village judges them. And you can hear the shame in Mom's voice too. She's got that kind of stronghold as well. And for her to hear that, I think, was surprising. And that's why she said what she said at the end, Yeah,
so one thing to get your case unstuck is have the right people on the bus.